Alright, let's dive into something that's been making waves in the financial world lately. Scott Bessent's bold move to prop up Japan's yen and, in the process, address America's staggering $40 trillion national debt. Now, if you're thinking, wait, how does a currency intervention tie into a massive debt crisis? Trust me, you're not alone. But here's the thing, Bessent isn't your average Treasury Secretary. He's a former hedge fund manager with a track record of spotting vulnerabilities in currency markets that most people miss. And that's what makes this story so fascinating. Here's the hook. Bessent was part of the team that famously broke the Bank of England in the early 90s by shorting the British pound. Fast forward to today, and is now on the other side of the table, trying to stabilize the yen instead of profiting from its downfall. Personally, I think this is a perfect example of how the financial world is full of ironies. The guy who once made billions betting against currencies is now using those same skills to protect them. What makes this really interesting is the timing. The yen's weakness comes at a moment when the US is grappling with its own economic vulnerabilities, particularly that $40 trillion debt mountain. Now, let's break this down. Bessent's decision to intervene in the yen market wasn't just about helping Japan. It was also about preventing Japan from dumping its massive holdings of US Treasury bonds. Japan is the largest foreign holder of US debt, with over $1.1 trillion in treasuries. If Japan were forced to sell those bonds to prop up the yen, it would drive up US interest rates, making it even harder for America to manage its debt. From my perspective, this is a classic case of interconnected global economics. What happens in Tokyo doesn't stay in Tokyo, it ripples all the way to Washington. What many people don't realize is that Bessent's move wasn't just about economics, it was also about geopolitics. Japan's treasury holdings aren't just an investment, they're a byproduct of a decades-long alliance. Unlike China, which has been reducing its US debt holdings, Japan's relationship with the US is more stable. Bessent saw an opportunity to strengthen that alliance while addressing a pressing economic issue. One thing that immediately stands out is how he chose to buy yen with euros instead of dollars. This decision drew criticism from some economists, but I think it reveals Bessent's strategic thinking. By using euros, he avoided putting additional pressure on the dollar, which is already under strain from the Petrodollar system's challenges. Speaking of the Petrodollar, this brings us to a bigger trend. The dollar's dominance as the world's reserve currency is being tested, particularly with Iran's moves in the Strait of Hormuz and reports of oil transactions being priced in yuan. If you take a step back and think about it, Bessent's intervention in the yen market isn't just about stabilizing a currency, it's about maintaining the dollar's global standing. The weakening yen was another crack in the dollar's armor, and Bessent's quick action was a signal to markets that the US is willing to defend its currency's status. But here's where it gets tricky. Not everyone is convinced that Bessent's approach is the right one. Mark Sobel, a former Treasury official, called the intervention ill-advised, arguing that Japan's macroeconomic policies are the real issue, not the yen's value. Personally, I think there's merit to both sides. While intervention might provide temporary relief, it doesn't address Japan's underlying fiscal problems. This raises a deeper question. Can band-aid solutions like this really fix systemic issues, or are they just kicking the can down the road? What this really suggests is that we're operating in a new economic framework, one that's less about free market globalization and more about populist policies. As RSM's chief economist Joe Brusulers pointed out, Bessent is being given more leeway because the rules of the game have changed. In my opinion, this reflects a broader shift in how governments approach economic challenges. It's no longer just about letting markets sort themselves out, it's about active intervention to achieve political and economic goals. So, what's the takeaway here? Bessent's move to prop up the yen is more than just a currency intervention. It's a strategic play to protect US interests, strengthen alliances, and defend the dollar's global dominance. But it also highlights the limitations of short-term fixes in addressing long-term structural issues. As we watch America's debt climb toward $40 trillion and the dollar's role in the global economy come under scrutiny, one thing is clear: the financial world is at a crossroads. And how leaders like Bessent navigate these challenges will shape the future of the global economy. What do you think? Is Bessent's approach a stroke of genius or a risky gamble? Let me know in the comments below.